I found my great-grandfather's World War II journal in a rusted toolbox. It revealed a love affair, a hidden daughter, and a promise that took 75 years to uncover. I didn't know much about my great-grandfather. Growing up, we had one photo of him in the hallway, a man with a sharp jaw wearing an army helmet squinting at something far off. My grandma called him Pop Thomas. My dad never mentioned him much, only saying he was a quiet man, serious, and kept to himself after the war. That was it. No stories, no medals on the mantle, no folded flag in a glass case. Just that one photo, and an understanding that Thomas Sheridan had gone to war, come home, and then tucked the past away so deep even his children barely saw it. I didn't think about him again until I helped my father clean out my late grandfather's garage. Dad was going to toss the rusted toolbox we found in the crawl space, but something about it made me pause. It was too heavy. Inside was no hammer, no wrench, just a thick leather-bound notebook wrapped in oilcloth brittle with age, and tucked beneath it, a yellowed envelope with "For Family," scrawled in a neat angular script. I opened the journal first. The pages were filled with dense cursive, careful and deliberate. The first entry was dated September 18, 1943. Boarded the RMS Queen Mary this morning, bound for England. The ship groaned like it had a soul. They packed us like cattle, smells of sweat, fear, bad socks, and cigarette ash. I watched New York disappear behind us. Felt like I left the man I was on the dock. That was the first time I heard my great-grandfather's voice, not as an old photograph, but as a young man trying to make sense of a world gone mad. He was just 19 when he shipped out. He kept writing, almost every day. Some entries were practical. October 4, 1943, Oxfordshire, UK, training drills. Mud and everything. Learned to field strip the M1 blindfolded. Sergeant says clean it like your life depends on it. Maybe it does. Some. Sobering. November 2, 1943, Devon. A kid from Georgia broke down during grenade drills, shaking so bad he couldn't pull the pin. Nobody laughed. We all wanted to. But it was the December 1943 entry that shook me. Met an RAF nurse today. Anna Weiss. Blonde. Sharper than me, smarter too. She bandaged my hand after I burned it on a Coleman stove. Asked if I was good with fire. Told her I hadn't burned anything important, yet. She said, "Just don't light yourself." I laughed harder than I had in weeks. I stopped reading. I'd never heard of an Anna Weiss. There were no family stories about her, but Thomas wrote about her often. A few pages later, January 5, 1944, saw Anna again. She snuck me a chocolate bar. Said her brother used to do that when she cried as a girl. I haven't eaten chocolate that slowly in my life. January 23, 1944, Anna kissed me. I don't know what tomorrow brings, but today I am a man in love. My great-grandfather fell in love during the war, but Anna Weiss's name was never spoken in our house. Not once. I called my dad that night, asked if he'd ever heard the name. No, he said. He married your great-grandma Marilyn in 47. Why? No reason, I said. Just something I found in the garage. I didn't know what I was digging into yet, but it felt like the start of something bigger. Something no one ever told me. I turned the page. February 8, 1944. Anna says she's leaving for Belgium. Forward Medical Unit. I begged her not to go. She laughed. That's what men always say to women who do dangerous things. I told her I'd find her after the war. She said, "You better." And then she was gone. I stared at that line for a long time. Then I opened the envelope marked, "For Family." Inside was a photo. Black and white, slightly curled, two people standing in the snow. My great-grandfather, and a woman. She had a faint smile, and her hand rested on his shoulder. On the back, in faded ink, Belgium, February 1944, Anna Weiss. I stared at the photograph for a long time. The woman, Anna Weiss, looked like no one I'd ever seen in our family albums. Not the quiet, angular-featured lineage on my father's side. Not the freckled Irish faces on my mother's. She had strong cheekbones, a proud jawline, and eyes that, even in monochrome, burned with clarity. I flipped it over again. Belgium, February 1944. AW. That meant he did find her. Or maybe she found him. The journal entry said she left for Belgium, and then what? They reunited for how long, and why was none of this ever spoken about? I went back to the journal. February 16, 1944. Belgium. Found her. Barely. Her unit moved just before I arrived. I caught up with them near Namur. She looked like hell. So did I. But she smiled like she'd been waiting every second since we parted. We only had one night, bunked in a supply shack surrounded by snow and cold and the smell of diesel. I held her as long as I could. She said she had something to tell me, but she didn't, and I didn't ask. March 1, 1944, somewhere near the Ardennes. It hurts worse this time, saying goodbye again. I told her I loved her. She didn't say it back, but she touched my face and looked at me like I was already a memory she didn't want to let go of. I don't know if I'll ever see her again. March 3, 1944, train south. I dreamed of her last night. She was in our kitchen, somewhere far away from all this, and we had a daughter. Her name was Elise. She had her mother's eyes. Elise. That name struck like a match in my brain. I searched my family tree. Grandma had 3 siblings, 2 brothers and a sister, but their names were Beth, James, and Harold. No Elise. Still, the name lingered. I kept reading. May 18, 1944, Normandy coast prepping. Rumors are swirling. Big push coming. Some say Calais, some say the beach is down south. All I know is we're moving soon. I've written Anna 6 letters. No reply yet. June 6, 1944. D-Day. I won't write what happened. I don't want this journal to rot in blood. But I lived. And some of us didn't. I saw boys become men and men disappear. I thought of Anna the whole time. Her voice kept me breathing. I don't know if that's love or madness. That was the last mention of her. For almost 40 pages. Most of the summer entries were about the slog through France. Heat, fatigue, lost friends. He mentioned a boy from Wisconsin who died clutching a harmonica, another soldier who kept a Bible in his breast pocket and swore it stopped a bullet until it didn't. Then a new entry stopped me, October 2nd, 1944. Aachen. Got a letter, from Anna. Mailed it in August. Took weeks to reach me. She's in Switzerland, discharged, pregnant. She says it's mine. October 4th, 1944. Forest Camp, I wrote back. Told her I wanted to know everything. Told her I'd come to her after the war. Promised her that. Promised the child. Elise, she said. A girl. My heart slammed in my chest. I read the next 5 pages like I was holding my breath. December 1944, Battle of the Bulge. No word since. Can't get letters out. It's snow, bombs, and bodies. I don't think I'll make it, but if I do, Anna, Elise, I swear I'll find you. January 17th, 1945, Aftermath. We survived. Barely. But I lost something else out there. Hope, maybe. I don't know how to live anymore. The war is taking pieces of me I can't get back. March 3rd, 1945. Hospital in Paris. Wounded, shrapnel in the leg. Won't walk right again. Letters lost. I don't know if Anna even knows I'm alive. The journal ended in late April. April 21st, 1945. Train depot, en route home. Going back, no idea where to find her. No idea what I'll say to the family, but I made it. And somewhere out there, if she's still alive, so did my daughter. I closed the journal, stunned. It wasn't just a wartime love story. My great-grandfather had a daughter, a secret daughter, born during the war, conceived in a stolen moment between battles. Her name was Anna Weiss, and no one in our family knew. Or, someone did, and they buried it. I went back to the envelope. There was one more thing, a folded document, German and English, a Swiss birth certificate, Elise Anna Weiss. Born March 22, 1945. Mother, Anna Weiss. Father, unknown. Place, Geneva, Switzerland. That changed everything. I searched the name and found something. A death notice, 2020, Elise Weiss Lockhart, born in Geneva, moved to the U.S. in 1965. Died in Vermont. No mention of a father, no children listed. But she had been here. She lived. She made it across the ocean, which meant she might have known. Or maybe not. And maybe someone else did. Maybe someone in my family had known this entire time, and chose to say nothing. I needed to know more. But first I needed to find someone who knew Elise, someone still alive. I called in sick the next day. There was no way I could sit through classes, pretend to care about 19th century literature, or answer emails from undergrads asking for extensions on their papers. My hands were still shaking when I printed out the obituary. Elise Weiss Lockhart, born in Geneva, Switzerland, died in Vermont. The trail was cold, but I had to follow it. I found a phone number attached to the funeral home listed in the death notice. It was a shot in the dark, but I called anyway. Lockhart Funeral and Burial Services, this is Marlene speaking. Hi, sorry to bother you. I'm trying to get in touch with the family of Elise Lockhart. She passed away in 2020? There was a pause, then. And you are? I hesitated. A distant relative. I'm trying to understand more about our family history. She softened. We can't share private contact information, but I can tell you her estate was handled by her niece. Name's Lauren Freeman. She lives in Brattleboro. Lauren Freeman. A living connection. I booked a flight to Vermont that night. Brattleboro was smaller than I expected. Quiet streets, independent bookstores, more coffee shops than made sense for a town this size. I stayed at a bed and breakfast and called Lauren that morning. This is Lauren. Hi, my name's Ethan Sheridan. I think we might be related. Another pause, then cautious. Related how? My great-grandfather was Thomas Sheridan. He served in World War II. I recently found his journal and he mentioned someone named Anna Weiss, your aunt. I think Elise might be his daughter. There was a silence so long I checked if the call dropped. Meet me at the Fox Hollow Cafe, noon. Click. Lauren Freeman looked to be in her 60s. Silver-streaked hair, glasses, a firm handshake. You brought the journal? I nodded and slid it across the table. She opened it gently, like it was a living thing. Read a few lines. Then she closed it. My aunt never talked about her father, not once, but she always had a small wooden box on her dresser, locked. The initials TS were carved into the top. I swallowed. Did she ever say what it meant? Lauren shook her head. She was private, guarded, loving, but hard to know. I asked once. She just said, some stories end in silence. She looked at me. But it never sat right with me. She didn't look like anyone in our family. Spoke fluent German. Had nightmares well into her 60s. Flinched at fireworks. I always thought maybe something happened to her in Europe. I think she was protected, I said quietly. By her mother. Maybe even by Thomas. But she never got to know him. Lauren blinked quickly. I wish I'd asked more questions. We sat in silence, and then she said, there's something I want to show you. At her house, she opened a dusty cedar chest, pulled out a box. Inside, a bundle of letters. These were mailed from Paris. No return address. Postmarked 1945. She kept them until the day she died. Never said a word about them. I opened the top one. My dearest Elise, I don't know if this will reach you. But if it does, I want you to know that I never stopped looking. That you are loved, even from afar. It was his handwriting. Dozens of letters, all unsigned but unmistakably his, describing places he searched. Letters to Anna that were returned. Hopes dashed. Then, determination. He didn't forget them. He tried. Lauren handed me the last one, dated 1954. I've built a life here. I married as I promised I would not. But still, I dream of Geneva, of snow, of your mother's laugh, of you. If you ever find this, I hope you know you were never a mistake. Tears ran down my face before I noticed. He hadn't abandoned her, he just lost her. What do you plan to do with all this? Lauren asked later, over tea. I looked at the journal, the letters, the black and white photo now tucked into my coat. Tell the story, not just for my family, for yours, for Elise, for Anna, for Thomas. She nodded. Good, because for 75 years that story was buried, and maybe it's time someone dug it up. We hugged before I left, two strangers bound by a silence neither of us created but both of us now understood. That night, I couldn't sleep. I reread the journal from the beginning. It no longer felt like a relic. It felt like a conversation. A man calling out from a century away saying, I was here. I loved. I lost. I lived. I stayed up the entire night reading the letters. By the time the sun spilled across the windowsill of my Airbnb, I felt like I had lived another life. My great-grandfather's life, stretched across paper and war and loss. There was one letter I hadn't opened yet. Lauren had handed it to me just before I left. It was sealed, yellowed, with my great-grandfather's careful penmanship across the front, to be opened by family only, upon my passing. But he'd never given it to anyone. Somehow, it had ended up in Elise's cedar chest. I broke the seal. July 12, 1961. If you're reading this, I'm gone. My name is Thomas Sheridan. I was a son, a soldier, a husband, and, for a few days in the winter of 1944, a father. There are things I never said. Out of fear, out of shame, out of loyalty to a promise I didn't know how to keep. During the war, I fell in love with a woman named Anna Weiss. She was an RAF nurse, stationed near the front. She had steel in her spine and a laugh that could drown out artillery. We found each other when the world was falling apart. In February 1944, she became pregnant. Our daughter was born in Geneva the following spring. Anna named her Elise. I tried to find them after the war. I failed. For years I searched, I wrote letters, I followed trails that ended in dust, I married, I had children, I tried to become a man worthy of a second chance. But I never stopped thinking of Elise, of what she might have become, of whether she wondered about me. If you are reading this, you are the bridge between that part of my life and the one I left behind. You carry blood that ran through 2 wars, through heartbreak, through continents. I never got to meet Elise again. But if she's alive or if she ever was, tell her that her father never forgot her. Not once. I sat with that letter in my lap for a long time. This wasn't just a family secret, it was a promise carried silently across generations, waiting for someone to listen. 6 months later, I gave a talk at the university. It was titled, War, Memory, and the Stories We Bury. I read excerpts from the journal, showed photos of Elise and Anna. I talked about generational silence, about how we inherit not just DNA, but decisions, fears, dreams. Afterward, a woman approached me. Her name was Margaret. She said her grandfather served in the same unit as Thomas. She asked if she could read the journal someday. I told her yes. Because stories like this don't belong in boxes, they belong in the world, so that one day when someone else finds a letter, or a photo, or a journal faded with time, they'll know. Love survives war. Promises can cross oceans, and the voices of our past still whisper even when no one is listening.